Right. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to share my story in terms of where I've changed, looking at the world in a different way. So I'll do my best. Before I go there, at the age of 12, when someone asked me, whom do you want to be? I say, I want to be a doctor. Right? At the age of 16, when someone asked me, hey man, whom do you want to be? I said, I want to be an engineer. Because what I've decided at the age of 12 has changed. And I know it's tough. At the age of 18, when someone asked me the fancy thing, I say, I want to be a pilot. And if I tell you now today where I work and what I do, you'll be amazed. It has again changed. I make lingerie for women. And I've been doing this for the last 10 years. And I'm happy. Right. So getting into my story in terms of the journey that I took last year into the continent, from being a supporter on sustainability to change the perspective that I have today, where I would prefer to be a leader in terms of sustainability and innovation, it was not easy. And I just want to demonstrate a simple example. If you can keep your two arms the way you feel comfortable. Okay. So let's make it different. Change it. How do you feel? Do you feel comfortable? No. Change itself. That's the funny thing about it. So today I'm trying to achieve, in terms of what I've experienced for the 20 days in Antarctica, in the next 17 minutes with all of you all today, and I'm trying to do my best, because it's a world demand from the mother of all mothers, from our planet, that we change very fast. So let me take you through the journey where I went, just to recap in terms of what is Antarctica. Antarctica is known as the last wilderness on Earth. No government, no war, no prisoners, which means no one owns it. In terms of world's water, if it has only 100 liters of water in the world, drinking water, 70% of that retains in Antarctica. And I think it's very important, not only for us, for our next generations to come. People say Antarctica is the brain of the planet. Why? For billions of years, it has retained history within the ice itself. And when you dig in, to the depth you go, the years go by, you can find many things that you can ever imagine what has happened over the years. It's the seventh continent in the world, and it is only there as no one owns it till 2041. In the year 2041, the superpowers of the world are going to come together, because the treaty is over, to re-decide whether we are going to go for Antarctica for water, oil, or land, or not. So my journey to Antarctica was about understanding the real requirement for today, so that when the 2041 comes, we would not want Antarctica to be explored for water, oil, or for land. So the journey started from Sri Lanka last year, February. We went to Argentina on the 28th of February to explore Antarctica. From there, we came to the city called Ushuaia. That's the southernmost city in the world. And through Ushuaia, on a 2-day cruise line, on a ship, we went to Antarctica. 80 of us from 28 countries represented last year. And every year, Sir Robert Swarn, who's in the left side of the picture, who walked to South Pole and North Pole as the first individual to do it, has a pledge. So he takes a bunch of young leaders who's willing to change or have not thought about change to be leaders of the next generation. And this is Gareth Woods, who supported him on the South Pole expedition 25 years back. Brilliant individuals. The Drake was not easy. That was the first challenge that we had to take through. It is the roughest sea in the world. And on a 2-day ship ride, when you feel dizzy, you normally park the car, jump off, relax a bit, have a cup of tea, take the ride. But on a 2-day ship ride, you can't jump to the sea. So you sleep. So the Drake is from the Ushuaia to the peak of Antarctica. So that's Drake Passage. So we came after 2 days to the continent, and this is the first pictures that I took in the continent. And this small boat is called a Zodiac, and I'll tell you why the Zodiac is important. It is used to travel to the continent from your mothership, and I'm going to pictorially show you all how magnificent, how big it is in terms of, okay, this is the Zodiac, there, Zodiac, and this is one of the icebergs that you can see in the continent. And this is pure fresh water, retained as ice. A couple of pictures to show you how I saw Antarctica. Again, the Zodiac, an iceberg. Again, just to reflect how wonderful it was, Zodiac, the mothership, and the continent. So if no one owns it, who really owns it? Until 2041, sea lions, whales, and penguins owns Antarctica. Because they do not know, in a country called Sri Lanka, US, China, Africa, or wherever it is, we are activated till 2041 or sooner to grab what they have already owned. I'm not sure whether you can see it properly, but in the night, it looks like this. Right. During the day, we did a lot of activities to understand, because it was about change, and it was about change in mind. In terms of understanding what is global warming, a lot of experts was around to teach us, to tell us, aware us, and during the daytime, we explored Antarctica, and we did funny things too. One thing is to jump into minus water and to feel how it feels. And it was amazing. If you ask me, will I do it again? No. All right. So that was polar plunge. And this was the fun part of the whole story. The love that you embraced by seeing Antarctica, and that was amazing. But when we went through the continent, we have explored these crevasses that you can see everywhere in the continent. And you wonder why there are cracks in a continent that is so vast, 60 times bigger than United Kingdom, 2 times bigger than Australia. And on the other side, you see a lot of icebergs floating around. And to match the equation, it is not what, but is when. We are not going to see Antarctica anymore because it's global warming. And today, I'm not going to talk about global warming. There are people who are here who might believe there is global warming happening. There are a set of people who do not believe that's global warming happening. That's not the case. For my own eyes, every 10 minutes that I've been on an edge of the continent, I've seen one of these 5,000 metric tons of fresh water coming down as part of our activities, reflecting in the continent. And I've spent almost 8 minutes by now. In another 2 minutes' time, one will go off. And it's not that easy to absorb because it's real. So if this is happening, I'm going to give you all an example to illustrate how we think back in Sri Lanka, back in our home. You have a frog who is about to be kept into an experiment. The first experiment is you put the frog in a 100 Celsius water bucket. What will happen? The frog will jump off because he understands that the environment that he has been put across is not normal. The other experiment is you take the frog, keep it in a glass pan, switch on your gas, and wait till the temperature rise from, let's say, 30 Celsius to the 100. Until the 90s hits the roof, the frog thinks that the environment is normal. And back at home, all of us here, including me, whatever the indicators that comes from the continent, comes from the planet, comes from the mother of all, we think it's normal. But by the time it hits the roof, probably not in our lifetime, probably in our kids' lifetime, it will be a realization. So my journey coming from the continent towards the next good old years that I'm going to live is towards talking about the need that I saw in the planet and to create in such a way where you do not just invest on a project. You invest on leaders who believes that sustainability is not a requirement, it's a need. So creating sustainability and leadership is the topic that I'm going to enrich you all in the next 7 minutes. To be honest, when I just about to go to Antarctica, I was not convinced enough that global warming is happening. I was always supportive for the activities that people try to do, but I was not convinced. But when I came back from the continent, it was a hard change in mind to be changed. And it's possible. And if you look at day to day, all of us know, in terms of creating sustainability, we can do a lot of things. Planting, creating a sustainable mindset, recycling, like what Donali is doing, switch off a light if it is not needed, create alternative solutions, that's all given. But I've realized this is not the real need. This is an effect of someone's leadership. So if we create leaders in all of this arena, we would do a lot of change that is required by our mother. So I came up with a model, the way I can, to emphasize on how do we create sustainable leadership amongst companies, governments, at home, to your kids. So the first step would be this question. Can you raise your hands who has realized or who has reflected the legacy that you want to keep behind when you go into ashes? How do you want people to remember you when you die? That's the way you say it. Who has? Okay, great. Who has not? I was not before I went. Okay. So the reflection is, we need to have a heart to understand my legacy. How do you want people to remember me when I die? And that's the purpose of your life, in other words. So defining your purpose is the first step on that leadership role. No purpose, you're not adding value. You have a purpose, you work for your purpose, legacy comes in. The next wheel of the whole story of creating sustainable leadership is addressing, of course, with action. And sometimes, most of the cases, when you address on leadership, you focus on two sets of humans. The guys who are supporting me on the cause, that's one way of providing leadership. The other way is, I'm going to convert these guys to believe me. But on sustainability, we do not have time. We do not have time to play around. So my understanding was, rather than addressing a group, address the cause, the uncertainty. Who has insurances in life? Life, car, house, wherever. Who has? Insurance? Insurance. Everyone should have, right? Or else you can't drive a car, right? But do you have the insurance thinking that tomorrow I'm going to meet with an accident, or do you get the insurance because you are uncertain, what if that happens? So my philosophy of explaining to an individual on sustainable leadership would be, whether it happens or not, let's put an insurance. Let's get our act together to save the world for our next generation. So address the cause, uncertainty. On the third, the biggest wheel of all, the moment of silence, in my terms. Because in Antarctica, no phones, no laptops, no Facebook, nothing. You try to reflect, time for you. And imagine, have all of us has time to reflect at least a minute whether I've done enough or whether I need to do more to reflect within. So when you do have a legacy, a purpose, when you do have a cause to action, if you don't reflect, you don't know whether you are going on the right direction or not. So self-reflection, team reflection, and a reflection of yourself is a requirement, and I cannot imagine that you can reflect without having a moment for yourself. And that's why I call it the moment of silence. So these three aspects will create leadership to drive sustainability. And that's what I've encountered looking at the continent and coming back and reflecting to myself, how can I pitch other people to come along the journey that I've gone through, the change. So our journey has just begun, and it's not over. It'll never be over. It's a never-ending land. You will never see that land ever again in terms of improvement. So in terms of mindset, let's get together. Let's reflect. Let's create the purpose. Let's act together to the cause, and let's make the world different. And this works on my head every day. We do not inherit our time on earth from our parents. Time, sense, resources, whatever you have. We have actually borrowed it from our kids. Reflect on that and have a good day. Thank you very much. God bless. Thanks.